very happy to introduce Shari Hoffman. She's a photographer and she's a very, very beautiful woman. Hi, Shari.
Hi.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much for having me.
Tell me your story. Why did you come from such a beautiful country? From one beautiful country to another beautiful country? What's the deal?
I came where the fish were swimming, but not for me, for my ex-husband at the time.
When was it?
This was 12 years ago.
12 years ago? Oh, so almost local here, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was his decision, right, to move here?
Kind of. I think we both wanted to get out of Toronto. The winter was pretty cruel, you know, 8 months of winter and then 4 months of humidity. And, you know, it was, he was a filmmaker, so we just came where the fish swam.
I can relate. I lived in Minneapolis for 5 years. It's really cold.
It's like terrible.
But I know there is a huge film community in Toronto, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, there was, and he was getting work, but we heard about AFI, the American Film Institute, and so he wanted to go. So that was like one of the incentives in coming here.
How old were you when you moved here?
23.
23. Not too young, not too old, right? I think it's a perfect time.
Yeah.
What did you do that time?
I was in school for graphic design. And I came here and I was doing photos as a hobby. And then someone just started asking, I started getting job offers to take photos. And it just became more and more prevalent and more often that I decided to go into photography.
But how did they know you are a photographer?
I did it as a hobby. I did it for my friends. I would take photos of them. I would weddings, birthday parties. It was more of just I would bring my camera with me wherever I went.
So they like your pictures and they asked you to come more and more, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. What is your favorite subject to photograph and why?
I like portrait photography, editorial lifestyle. Why? I like it because, I like the storytelling that goes with it. I like the humanity of someone's face, but also I would like to show something beyond the face, like something that's, you know, in the eyes or something atmospheric, you know, kind of like a lens onto, like almost like you're watching something vulnerable and at the same time romantic. Yeah.
I think it's a really good answer to this question. After all these 12 years here, how can you compare? What did you expect from the United States?
Initially, or just in general, like I could.
In general, you had some expectation when you moved here, right?
There was like an underlying fear, you know, the lack of social responsibility in healthcare, and I felt like that the U.S. was very litigious. Like, you know, the concept of suing someone was kind of all bets were off. Yeah, I mean, if I were to. But I also thought that this was like the wild, wild west. Like I felt as though it was like a land of opportunity. Like you come here for, you know, to hustle and to make it, you know. And I think that the drive here has that energy. It's an energy of opportunity. Whereas when you live in a country that takes care of you, it's more conservative. It's not as creative because it's kind of safer. It's you go to work and you come home and you buy a house and you have the kids and you have the white picket fence. Here it's you have to just hustle. It's more intense. It's also like it's more rewarding to a certain degree. You live for that dream.
For me, it just looks like it should be easier because you don't have to change your language. I just want to make sure, was it like Was it easier or no? Because for people, about the people from other countries, it's like really challenging when you can speak, when you move here and you had your language, you didn't have to change it.
Yeah. I mean, there is, it was interesting. At first, people thought I was a little British. They say that the way that I pronounced words was very sharp with the T's and the O's and the U's. But then when I would say I'm from Toronto, they would say, "Oh, I love people from Toronto. Like they're so nice. They're like the nicest people." And I always thought that was amusing because I don't think Toronto people are specifically nice. I think that they're very polite. Yeah, I don't know. Like it was kind of in that vein where people were judging me based off of those generalities. But it was. I mean, I won't say no if someone wants to like me.
Even you didn't have the difficulties with your language. Did you have difficulties to find a job?
I did because during the process of of becoming legal, I couldn't work on the books. I had to work off the books. So it was a cash jobs. My first job was a daycare teacher, taking care of babies.
That's not bad for the first job.
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
Terrible to other people. That's not bad.
It wasn't terrible. I mean, it was okay. It was nice.
Do you like to babysit kids, or it was hard for you?
I mean, I know how I grew up with 7 other siblings.
Oh, wow.
I was the second oldest, so I grew up with a lot of babies. Do I enjoy it? It's not it's not my first activity I would like to do, but I do like kids. They're great.
What was the most challenging in all this process of immigration?
I think, becoming legal, like going through getting the social, being able to work here, like on the books, was very difficult. Getting a lawyer for immigration, filling out the paperwork, getting married, and then it just seemed as though there was a lot of waiting, there was a lot of jumping through hoops, like doing stuff wrong and then having to redo it, or and everything, it felt as though everything cost, like the minute, that added minute with the lawyer was like an extra cost. So you were trying to be as thorough and fast as possible, but you also had to be patient with yourself, because then you could run into that problem.
But when did you move? When you moved here, what kind of visa did you have? Just visitor visa, or?
I kind of snuck in here. We weren't married yet, my ex and I, and so we just said that we were going on a trip. And when we got here for the first 3 months, we just kind of enjoyed the lifestyle, because LA is so different than Toronto in terms of the entertainment. And you wake up and you feel like you're on vacation every day with the palm trees and the weather. And then after 3 months, we got married, and then we started the process with like a lawyer.
Did you have something that shocked you a lot, that you didn't expect at all?
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of things that shocked me. I think that for me, what shocked me was how nice everyone was, but how ingenuine it was. There was like an ingenuine, like it was more like, I'll scratch your back if you scratch my back, that sort of thing. It was very, especially, I mean, in the industry, the entertainment industry specifically, but I mean, at the end of the day, like, I think I don't know, I think the lifestyle here is just demands a lot of acceptance and patience.
Have you ever wanted to come back home?
No.
At all?
No.
You don't miss Toronto at all?
No.
That's
I mean, I miss my family, but I don't miss the weather. I don't necessarily miss the lifestyle. It's a beautiful place. It just, I never really saw myself living there for the rest of my life.
How did you get from being an inspiring photographer to the place wherever you are right now?
I think when it comes to doing what you want to do, like a dream, following a dream, if you're creative, I think creative expression is it's important for creative expression to constantly exercise it and to constantly feed your creativity. I don't think art feeds you. I think you feed your art, and I think art itself, like your art, is a hungry animal. So if you don't feed it, then it'll destroy you, type thing. So I think it was about really engaging in this idea that like I wasn't doing it for money. I wasn't doing it I wasn't doing it for fame or for a name or anything. I was doing it just because there was nothing else left for me to do. I didn't have any other option. If I didn't do it, then I would have I creatively or emotionally I would have died. It was something that like I didn't even have a choice. And I think that when you kind of look at life in that creative way, where it's not yeah, it's okay, you could hate it at times, but it's difficult, but I think it's a long-term relationship and a lot of compromise and a lot of and it's every single project was like another lesson, another PhD into what into the next thing, and it was and it also fed into the next idea, and you meet new people, and then you start collaborating with more people, and then your network becomes bigger, and the friendships become stronger, because after you work with people, then you start trusting them, and then you build that family, that creative family of people.
Did you take any classes at all? Did you?
Yeah, I went to Otis.
Otis, I just wanted you to explain to the people who wanted to be a photographer what kind of step they should take.
Oh, I think learning the technique and the technical aspects of it, knowing your lighting, and also just inspiring yourself. I think technique is very important. My teacher used to always tell us, when someone asks you what you take photos of, you should be able to say everything, and after that, then you go into the creative mode, and then you go into you create something that you want to create, but you could break the rules afterwards. But first and foremost, it's technique.
What makes the good picture stand out from the average picture?
I think that's an interesting question. I think it has to do with what you're thinking, like when you're taking the photo. What are you trying to say? I mean, from a reference point, I think knowledge is power, and I think that it's not only about photography in my life. It's about culture and stories and film and art, and then getting inspired by those things and implementing them into a photo. And I think you can tell a good photo from a bad photo, because a good photo will make you feel something. It'll inspire you to build upon it. And you'll think, oh, I could have done something this clever, but I didn't. And what was this person thinking, and you start noticing like the stillness, or you start noticing the opposite, the liveliness, or the violence, or the beauty of it, And I think it's more about the curiosity.
The most interesting question for me, and I believe for everyone else, how do you deal with a difficult client?
I believe in the idea of leaning into the sword. So if they're being difficult, then just move with them, because when you move with a client, if you push against them, then you just create more of that space of antagonism and difficulty. But if you listen to them, there's only so many places they could go until they realize that there's no place to go and you're trying to help them.
What kind of advice can you give to the models and to the people who are looking for the photographers?
That's a good question. I've been lucky. I would say what I would do is if I were a model, I would look on social media of different photographers that are doing different types of shoots, and I would be messaging them or getting my agent from the modeling agency to message the photographer and ask them if they would do test shooting for them.
All of us, we have Instagram pages and people look at them and look this beautiful LA and all this fancy style. What do you want people to know about the immigration to the United States, especially because they expecting, like this beautiful life, no worries. They think that this place is better than the place they live.
That's a good question. I will say I think patience is very key, and I think patience in making friends and making a community. I think it was very easy to make friends. It was very hard to make quality friends. And I think what really it took me about 3 years to really create something that was really sturdy and stable in terms of a friendship group. And then also kind of finding the comfort in rolling with it, like rolling with the punches. It's a hard place, but also recognizing that soon enough you'll be a native and you'll know more about the city, but it gets lonely. Like there are times when it gets lonely, and just I think knowing where you could escape to have pleasure. And I'm not saying like unhealthy escapes. Yeah. Like I'm saying like find the beach you like, or find the downtown area you like to go to, or a place for dinner. And when you're feeling really low, go there. But like celebrate the idea of like finding places that you would enjoy going to.
How long did it take you to get from the work you don't like to the work you like a lot?
I think I always, it was always like a graduation almost. I started with family photos and I loved it. And then I went from family photos to event photography. And I loved event photography, and I didn't want to do family photos anymore. And then I went from event photography to doing editorial and different types of editorial, and then like working, first by myself and doing, I was the one-stop shop, creatively like styling and doing the makeup and doing everything, setting up the shot. And then that grew into like building a team and having someone who was, the stylist and the makeup and the hair and the model. And then it was also like just the concepts became richer and bigger, and then from those experiences, then that gave birth to jobs that were kind of surrounded in the same environments, where I was coming in. So,
did you have that moment when you thought, why did I move here? What was the hardest moment in your life?
I think right before COVID, I got a message from a friend in Italy, and he told me, he said, lockdown's going to happen. There's going to be a lockdown that's going to happen. You should get out of LA. And he was telling me about the lockdown in Italy. And I didn't believe him, but I didn't want to be locked down in LA. And that was like the first time I was like, maybe LA is not the best place for me to be. But at the same time, I mean, when it did happen, you just kind of like appreciating the idea that, the sun comes out every single day, that you could take a walk, that, that you were able to go outside, like you weren't in New York, or you weren't in a cold place where like you were stuck in a little bedroom apartment in the city, and yeah, it was, I was very lucky.
And you have a daughter, right?
Yeah.
So how is it to be, you're a single mom right now, right?
Yeah.
How is it to raise a daughter and being a single mom and be working mom?
Well, it definitely puts a fire underneath you. The drive to succeed is there. I remember when I had her, I wasn't working, and we were relying on my ex's income. And one thing I came to think about was, if something were to happen to him, then how would I provide for her? And what was I leaving her with? And so I made a decision there that I would work as hard as I could to create something where I could leave her with something valuable, whether it's her own creative eye and her own ability to, take photos, or have something that she could like take with her in her job, But it was more. It's very difficult, but it's also rewarding. Like she's beautiful and funny, and yeah, she's great.
Is your ex-husband supportive? Is he helping you guys, or?
Yes, my ex and I have, when we got married, because we got married pretty young, like at 22, 23, there was always this idea that the end of a marriage doesn't mean the end of a friendship. And after we had my daughter, it was evident that we were kind of stuck together, whether we liked it or not, for the rest of our lives. And so it just happens that, he makes more of an income, but, it would go both ways. If I was making more of an income than he was, then we'd be supporting each other regardless.
That is good. Not all the people can do this.
Yeah, it takes a lot of work. Right? Yeah, it takes a lot of work.
Can you tell us the funny story that happens to you here? Happened to you, right?
The funny stories that happen.
No funny stories at all.
No, there are too many funny stories.
Too many. Oh, that's good.
So okay, I'll tell. I think I have one. So.
I mean, something maybe different between Canada, and the United States. You had something like going on, you didn't expect it.
Yeah, I mean, I think I already said it, but I'll go into detail. But there's like this idea, like people are always like, "Oh, you're from Toronto. Like, I love you already. Like, I don't even need to know who you are." Because you're from Toronto, so you must be wonderful. And in Toronto, there's this like Canadians are known for always saying sorry. I'm sorry. Like they bump into you, they say they're sorry for breathing in front of you, And so everyone thinks like, oh, that they're so nice, And I had gone back to Toronto, and I realized that as much as they would say sorry, that there was like, it wasn't saying sorry like genuinely. There is something interesting when someone says sorry. What they're really saying is, can we change the subject?
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
So like, let's change the subject now. I accepted that I did something too, but let's change the subject. So there is this feeling of like, so I always get a kick out of it because Americans see it and they're like, oh, the Canadians are so polite and they're so nice. And I'm like, no, Canadians are trying to tell you to shut up and change the subject. Like, get out of here,
Right now I'm trying to realize if you said sorry to me, no?
No, I tried. Yeah, no, and the same thing, I mean, one thing, my daughter today, I had apologized for something and she's like, and I said sorry, and she's like, sorry is a really stupid word. And I said, you're absolutely right, it is. I absolutely agree. I apologize, but the meaning of that word alone, I find it so fascinating. And I do think that LA people, like, I think the weather here really affects the way that they think. When the vitamin D, I don't know, they're not stressed at all. It's like they walk around and it's like, and they're kind of like more slow. Whereas like I find that the more East Coaster you go, the more intense, the more nervous, the more anxiety ridden, almost like the fear of rush now.
Maybe the sun. I don't know, but I noticed it as well.
Yeah.
And I believe the last one would be, I know a lot of people from the United States, they want to immigrate to Canada. They said, oh, it's better healthcare, it's easier to find jobs, it's not so stressed out. So what would you recommend them?
I mean, I think I live in LA for the lifestyle. I live in LA for the climate. I like the lifestyle. I like the climate. And it comes with you pay for it in different ways. In Canada, I find that it's easy. Yes, it's easier with a job. It's easier with healthcare, but there's also long lineups for healthcare. There's also not as many upscale. Like it's safer and at the same time unsafer. If someone has cancer, then their lineup to get chemo is a lot longer unless they have Protexia or they have some sort of connection. And in terms of jobs, yeah, like jobs are quite easy to get in Toronto, but the creativity I find of getting like a creative job as a filmmaker or stylist or anything, I think that's a lot harder because you're protected by the government to a certain degree, so you'll choose a safer job so that you could have leave. You know, like if you want to have a kid, then they pay for your income, half your income, like to give you leave for a year after you have the baby.
It's a year.
It's a year, but you have to work a certain amount of time in order to get that. And so you're paying for it in different ways. You're paying for it through this idea of like how much of a cowboy you are versus how much of a conservative and conservative person who wants the protection. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, there's pluses to both. I mean, I would not be able to live where it snows and it's cold. But I did. I just don't like it. But yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing your story. It was really interesting to get known Canada and the difference, because for me, as I was born in Ukraine, so for me it just looked everything like the same. It was like over the ocean, everything the same. But thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And I want to remind you that we had Shari Hoffman. She is a photographer and she's a beautiful, strong woman.
Thank you.
I would like to welcome Anna Danilian, the immigration lawyer based in Los Angeles. Hi, Anna.
Hi, Oleksandra.
Thank you so much for coming. I know you have a very tight schedule, and thank you so much for finding time for us.
Thank you very much for inviting me to your show.
Can you tell me what happened in your life that you decided to immigrate?
Well, I mean, back in the days, I was a young girl, so nothing really happened in my life, but like lots of things were happening in my country. There was a huge earthquake in 1988 in Armenia. And also there was a war basically with the neighboring republic, Azerbaijan. And so as a young woman, I really didn't see a path for myself, like for a professional career or self-fulfillment. In Armenia then, I don't know how it is right now, but I don't think there were that many changes. Women after age of 20 were basically expected to get married and become mothers. And as far as their professional careers, there was never really that much of a focus on that. And I think as of recently, it's changing, but it's changing very slowly. So for myself, I felt that, I need a bigger platform to play and to experience different things. So within myself, for some reason, even though there weren't like a clear-cut path how to immigrate to the United States, somehow I always saw myself going there and becoming someone. So that's how it started. Just an idea, just a feeling, just a desire.
And you didn't have anybody in your family who...
No, I had no family, I had no relatives, I didn't even have friends. So it was like a complete adventure. And and somehow I survived and we're here today.
So when was the last time when you were in Armenia?
So actually, I've been here since 1990, and in all these long years, I went back only once, 20 years later, after not being there. So when I left, it was a Soviet country, and so I came here with a Soviet passport. And then, like for 7 years, I actually didn't have documents myself, because I came here just with a B1 business visa. I mean, it's a visa that allows you just short business activity. And I was supposed to be sponsored by a company for work, but that company never really took off. It was also some kind of an adventurous idea that this man had. So yeah, he invited like a lot of women from Russia and also men for a certain project that he had in mind. And then when it didn't take off, he just said, okay, like I can buy you a ticket, you can go back or you can stay. So obviously most of the people stayed because it was the time of big upheavals in Soviet Union. Like a lot of republics were undergoing changes, and then they were becoming independent, and there were a lot of wars and a lot of conflicts going on. So most of the people decided to stay, and I stayed. And yeah, eventually I met a man, but he only had a green card, so I couldn't get a US citizenship. So even though I wasn't illegal per se, I wasn't allowed to leave the country or start, like studying or anything like that. So it took a long time for me to become legal, and that's why, my slogan on my law firm, it says that I'm a formerly undocumented immigrant who turned into an immigration lawyer.
What did you do back in your country?
I just studied. I studied literature. Yeah.
And what idea you had when you moved here? What you wanted to be, who you wanted to be?
I honestly had no idea. Yeah, I just came here. It was like completely clean slate. I mean, of course, I had different ideas. Like I wanted to make movies. I wanted to. I always wanted to write. And be some kind of a writer. So like one of my dream professions was to be a foreign correspondent, like to travel in different countries and report. So of course, like I came to the US, and no one wanted me to report anything. But so I was looking at those type of positions. But as you know, if you're an immigrant, I don't know if you are an immigrant, I don't know your personal path, but if you don't have documents, your options are very limited. So you can only take whatever comes your way. And in a way, my profession also just came my way in a very casual way, because I was just looking for a job.
So you became the immigration lawyer because of your status. You wanted to know more.
No, so as an immigrant, I was just looking for a job, and it's very interesting because there is a building here on Sunset and Vine that was like the first building where I started working, but it was a modeling agency. So I started my career here as just like an office assistant at a modeling agency. And it's right here. And I remember as a very young immigrant, running errands for this company, because, they were sending me to the photographer studio to get, prints and stuff. And I remember I was walking the streets of Hollywood, and, back in the days, it was pretty dingy, even dingier than it is right now. And I was like, am I really in Hollywood? Is this really the Hollywood that they show in the pictures? Because I was seeing the stars under my feet, but at the same time, everywhere was, not glamorous, to say the least, right? So, so I was wondering about that, but then I learned that, it is Hollywood, and Hollywood is not exactly how it is in the pictures, or... and then I had to end that job, and I was just looking for another job, and then I saw an ad in the paper, and I went to see these lawyers. They were in Century City, and they were 3 Russian lawyers that wanted to create this partnership in order to represent successful Russian businessmen, because at that time the idea of working with Russia was very hot, unlike as it is right now, because right now it's the relationship between the 2 countries have cooled down, to say the least. Back in the days, in the 90s, it was actually like quite an attractive idea to many people to have investments and work with Russian businessmen, and so they wanted to have an office assistant. And I went there, and then they talked to me, and for some reason, instead of talking about the law, this one of the partners talked to me about movies. And since we were both fans, so we got along very well. And they offered me a job, even though at that time I didn't know computers, I didn't know how to type. Like I wasn't prepared for the office job.
Was this job in English or in Russian?
Yeah, of course, yeah. So it was an office legal assistant.
Okay.
Yeah, so they were planning to train me, and then that's how I started my training, because as they wanted to represent Russian businessmen, they needed to do employment visas for them, L1 visas, and then so they teach me how to do them, and then so I started like learning about immigration law very slowly, hands-on. And immigration law is the type of law that you don't really learn in school. So even if you go to Harvard and then you graduated from a very prestigious university, you don't learn. If they teach immigration law, that would be just like 1 semester selective subject. Yeah. So it's one of the subjects that you can only learn if you have actual experience. And in my case, that's how it happened. So I was just a legal assistant, and I was just learning how the law works in practice. And it took me a long time to actually come to an idea that I will become a lawyer, because as an immigrant, you take the job and then you think like, oh, what's next for you, and then figure things out. But then also as an immigrant, you look for stability, right? So you don't have the luxury to just quit your job and just go try something else. But so in a way, for me, the way it worked, that I was mostly like daydreaming about the things that I wanted to do, like, make films or, be a journalist. And I kept acquiring experience until, I reached a certain age. And then a friend of mine who was a lawyer, he said, listen, you already work as a lawyer without a license. Why don't you just go and, get an education and become a proper lawyer? And, I thought about it. I mean, it was, of course, like very challenging decision.
The first female lawyer in U.S. history was from Iowa, named Arabella Mansfield. She was the first to sue the state bar in order to sit for its bar exam, a privilege that has been exclusively reserved for males. Wait, you said you met a guy, he had a green card, right?
Yeah.
So did you marry him?
Yes.
You guys married, but his status didn't allow you to get...
Not right away, but in 7 years. So in 7 years, I became fully, a resident.
Can you explain how it works?
Yeah.
So he had a green card.
Yeah.
And you had a... What visa you had? You had B1?
B1.
B1 visa. And you married him. So what happened after that with your status?
Yeah, so back in the days, the law was different, so you couldn't really adjust your status through a legal resident. So the situation with those marriages, they actually vary from time to time, because if there are visas available in that category, so you could actually adjust. So at this time, for example, if you come here as a B1 or B2 or like with any type of lawful status, and you enter with inspection and you marry a green card holder, you can actually adjust your status exactly the same way as the citizen, so long as you are legal and so long as you are not working without authorization. But back in the days was different, so it took me a long time.
So now if you marry someone with a green card, you can adjust your status and have a green card right away?
Yes.
How
Like
long
the
does
same
it
way
take?
as a US citizen. Well, right
Oh, is
now,
it the
all the
same?
COVID and all that, like maybe a year.
When did it
You will get
happen? What year? Do you know what year it happened?
a couple of like 3 years before.
Because I know it wasn't like this.
Yeah, they had visas.
Yeah.
So they had visas, and yeah, it was kind of unprecedented. And then, so people who were they got really lucky. Persons who married legal residents before they had to maintain their lawful status, like let's say through a student status. Because they couldn't like fall off the status. Like if you're married a U.S. citizen and you somehow lost your status, you know, like you didn't maintain your lawful status, and even if you worked illegally, you can still adjust your status. So that's a special privilege that immediate relatives of U.S. citizens can have. With the green card holders, there was also a long waiting time involved, but right now you can actually just marry and adjust the same way, so long as before filing your documents you maintained your legal status and you did not work illegally.
It's interesting.
Yeah,
Very interesting.
yeah, yeah. So that's a good thing for today's immigrants, I guess.
Yeah,
and
I think it is,
yeah.
yes.
But you know, like that man that I married and we divorced like a long time ago, and then I remarried and I had a child and I divorced again. So at the time when I went to law school, I was a single mother, and I worked full time at the law firm, and I couldn't afford not to work and just go to school. So I had to combine, you know, working and raising my child and also studying.
How old was your child when you applied for the school?
He was, I think, 12.
12.
Yeah.
Yeah, still young.
Yeah, very young. But, you know, as they say, behind every man is a great woman, and behind every woman is also a great woman. So behind me was my mother, who came here, and my mother is a teacher, and my son was her first grandchild. So my mother really helped me a lot, like by being there in the evenings when I wasn't there, and you know, not worrying about where my son is or is he well taken care of. So yeah, I think without my mother, who knows where I would be. So I'm very grateful to her.
For sure. I know there is a huge Armenian community here.
Yes.
So do you communicate with people from your country, or you mostly with American people?
Yeah, so in immigration law, of course, like many immigration lawyers who come from different backgrounds, they obviously use their language skills and then their also knowledge of a cultural background to work with the people that they can associate themselves with. Yeah, so I came from Soviet Union, which means, you know, like besides Armenian, I also speak Russian. So I have a lot of like Russian speaking clients. It could be Armenians, it could be Uzbek, it could be Korean from Uzbek. So I have a very diverse group of people. And I don't even have that many Armenian clients, I guess, because I'm not based in Glendale, because, you know, like, as you know, the Armenian community is based in Glendale, and then in Glendale, they have a lot of immigration attorneys. So I guess they don't have to venture to Hollywood to find another one. So if, I guess, you know, like someone recommends me, then they come to me. But yeah, my clients come from different ethnic backgrounds, but they're mostly like speak Russian as a common denomination between them, as it was common in Soviet Union.
It reminded me when I moved to Los Angeles, one person met me and he said like, "Welcome to the United States of Armenia."
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was a
But
funny.
you know what's interesting? That you meet people that you say that you're from Armenia and then they don't even know where it is. Or they would just say, so like literally 2 days ago, I was speaking to a guy, right? So he said, "So where are you from?" And I said, "I'm from Soviet Armenia." So just to give him an idea. But, you know, I guess like Soviet Union has disintegrated already, you know, like in 1991. And a lot of people already forgot about it, even though it's very, very relevant in the our lives like, right? Like it didn't just disappear. We didn't become like this.
It was the same when people asked me where I'm from, and when I said I'm from Ukraine, they asked me like, is it in Russia?
Yeah, exactly. So we're always associated with Russia, right? So, and then we talked about it, and he even said, oh, you know, so he lives by a Turkish consulate, and then he says like he sees that the protests and stuff. But, and yet, you know, he said, you know, like in a few sentences, he said, so what part of Russia you lived in? And it was just so weird, right? Like I said, oh, you know, I just told you that I'm from Armenia. I'm not from Russia. I speak Russian, but, you know, I never lived in Russia. And he was like, oh, yes, yes. Oh, okay. Yeah, I got confused. And then, of course, there are other people who think that all Armenians live in Glendale. You know, so whenever I say I'm Armenian, they'll be like, oh, and you live in Glendale? And, you know, I even had a friend who said, whenever we went somewhere, and then, like, let's say somebody would approach a guy, and this was a long time ago, and then they would be like, oh, so where are you from? I'm Armenian. Oh, and you live in Glendale? No, I don't. You know, and she's like, I'm going to make a t-shirt for you, and then on the t-shirt it will say, I'm Armenian, but I don't live in Glendale, and please wear that t-shirt when you come out with me, you know?
Because there is a lot of Armenians.
Yeah, there are lots of
even
Armenians.
Even in Burbank, I was surprised. I was entering one store and people started to talk to me in Armenian. Yeah. I was quiet and she's like, and she started to talk in Russian right away to me. Oh. It was my biggest surprise. I never expected.
Yeah. They're actually going to even have a museum of Armenian history open soon in Glendale.
It's a new one?
Yeah, completely. Oh. It's still under construction.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. So we took over Glendale.
Oh, that's true. I can tell, yes. Do you know that the second largest Armenian community is in the US? 1.5 million people. The biggest community lives in Glendale, California. Can you tell us, do you have some interesting stories of your clients, maybe what happened, what maybe they can be useful for the people who want to immigrate?
Yeah, so I mean, I think that like as maybe a word of warning, you know, to certain clients that seeking immigration, for instance, like I have a lot of I don't know, should I say like sad stories, you know, like of these mail order brides that come here and then they get married to US citizens to come here. And so throughout the years, I can see a certain pattern, you know, a certain pattern of a certain type of men that travel to Russia to bring women. So these are like older men. A lot of them are veterans.
From here?
Yes, from all kinds of states, you know, from all states. Because of course there are agencies, right? There are agencies that advertise like, oh, Russian women are beautiful, they are, you know, docile, they are agreeable, blah, 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 you know, meaning that like if you're looking for the old-fashioned type of marriage, you can find a woman there. And then, yeah, so they organize everything. They organize these trips to mainly larger cities like St. Petersburg or Moscow or even Yekaterinburg. And then, so they bring a lot of women to introduce to this man. And a lot of women, because, you know, like their own personal situations, because they're divorced or they're of a certain age and they don't see options for themselves in their own country, they are not prone to really look into details, like to really understand if this is their soulmate or this is like a companion or true partner or whatever. So they're actually, you know, very quick in their decisions, right? So they get married and they come here. Most of them speak very limited English. So they think that they can communicate in the language of love and then they can understand each other, right? And then, you know, sometimes it works. But a lot of times it does not work. So a lot of times they end up with very controlling men that they want to control every aspect of their lives. Also, one thing that shocks, like these brides, because they expect this man to be their knights in shining armor, and take care of them and make their lives this, fairy tale where they're going to come and they're going to live like in one of those American films, right?
Yeah, I just want to say that's what they see it in the TV, right? Like beautiful American dream.
And then, exactly, they have this house and da-da-da. And then they come, and oftentimes the pictures that these men show, they're very deceiving. And then they end up in some kind of a shock that is filled with stuff. And then this man doesn't even want to allocate like any amount of money for household expenses. Like one woman was saying that she can't even buy a shampoo because her husband would say that it's too expensive, the shampoos that she chooses. Sad. It's very, very sad. And the other thing is like they always blame them, like that. I mean, they tell them that they're a burden because they're an extra expense to them, but at the same time they don't want them to study or work. So they don't want them to become independent because they understand that once this woman is going to become independent, she's going to flee this kind of a cage that they create for them. So of course, like my advice to this woman would be to look into the maybe social accounts of this person, to have serious conversations. Even if their English is limited, they could maybe use a friend, and then they really should look into it. And then, like there are this series, I forgot where they run, I think on Hulu, the 90 Days Fiancé. So there are lots of stories that they can look and then kind of have an idea that, there could be very different scenarios when they come here.
Did you know that there is a world of dating agencies that have psychologists, therapists, etiquette training and self-help courses, all geared toward the question of where to meet and how to keep foreign husbands? Yeah, I worked on this show.
Oh, you did?
Yes.
Oh my God, I didn't even know.
And I was surprised.
Did you have fun with all the characters?
I didn't have to have fun. I had some.
Yeah.
But I was surprised how many Ukrainian women I met.
Yeah.
And it was
and
a
some
lot
of them
drama,
are young
actually.
too, right?
Very young.
And some of them very young, yeah. So that's the difference between the show's characters and my clients. Mostly, you would say these are women over 45.
I think the biggest problem, when all it started, our women, they have expectations, big expectations for their local men, and the men, they didn't know about it.
Yeah, exactly.
So
there is a disconnect. Yeah, but at the same time, it's interesting because like the men who look for Russian wives, I mean, of course, obviously they want to have someone beautiful because the idea of this Russian or Ukrainian woman being very beautiful, that's very common. So, and sometimes men here feel like if they get a Russian wife, they can get someone out of their league, so to speak, right? Because they live in America, that's an attractive advantage that they have. So this woman would be more likely to go with them, which actually works for them. Yeah, so that works, yes. But then later on, they kind of want like a woman who's more old-fashioned, like who would be kind of like a, like a wingman of a man, like.
I think it's a different mentality.
Right,
it's
and
really
then the
hard.
woman, yeah, but then at the same time they expect them to work and speak the language, and they don't understand, like for an immigrant, it takes time. It takes time to learn the culture. It takes time to know the language, well enough to get a decent job. And I mean, it's a huge change.
I want to go back to your law school. Was it hard to be in a law school as a student?
Yeah, of course it was very hard because I worked 8 hours a day, and it's a pretty demanding job. Just as my route, I lived in Hollywood for. I have been living in Hollywood since, I don't know, the 2000s. So I had to take my son to Koreatown, drop him off at his school, and then go to Encino to my office, then get off, and then at 4:30 so that I don't hit the traffic at rush hour, and drive to Glendale. So I can be there, and sometimes, I just slept in my car before the studies. My routine was, just to get green tea at Starbucks that was like across the street, and then sometimes just study something if I had a test in the car or at the coffee shop, or if I didn't, then I try to just have like a nap in my car.
It calls dedication.
Yes. And then go there and then stay up, and then like I would drink so much green tea, then later I would come home and I couldn't sleep, and
I know.
Yeah.
And how long did it take you? How many
4 years.
4 years.
Yeah. So 4 years because it was a part-time studies.
If it's full time, how many
It's
years?
3 years.
3 years.
Yeah. So you have to go additional time if it's part-time.
Can you tell me how much was it?
The amount?
The law school, yeah.
So I chose my law school for certain reasons, right? Because I actually by that time was working at a law firm as a paralegal for a long time. So I already knew I wanted to do immigration law, and kind of knew that I would have clients and stuff. So I really needed something affordable, close to my work. It had to be practical. So I couldn't just, I wasn't like one of those people who were in their 20s and decided to go to law school so that like a good law firm would pick them, because I already knew that I wanted to work for myself. And so this school is in Glendale, and I believe it was maybe 15,000 per year.
So for 40 years you had 60,000.
Yeah.
Did you take a loan?
I did not.
You did not?
No. So this was like one of the best things that I did it later in life. So I did it at the time that I could afford without taking a loan. So
that's impressive that
yeah.
you were able to pay it off.
Yeah, well, that's why I also worked full time. And
but still people
yeah.
work full time. And
yeah,
you have
because
a
when you
child.
take a loan, the interest and stuff, then it becomes 100, then it avalanches, it becomes like
Yes.
a whole another amount, and I didn't want to deal with it. I wanted just to get my license and start working for myself.
Nobody wants to deal with that.
Right.
Some people have to.
Right, of course.
Yeah.
And I'm sure if I went to law school like younger, I probably would do that. But I felt like I have, less years to pay off that loan, so I decided to do it in one shot.
Was it enough for you just to take these classes to become a lawyer?
No, you have to also. So the hardest thing in becoming a lawyer, of course, like studies are very hard, but you also have to take a bar exam. And if you don't pass the bar exam, then you can't become a lawyer. And that's an interesting thing between being a lawyer in the United States and being a lawyer, like let's say in Russia or Armenia, because in Russia, for instance, if you graduate from the university as a lawyer, so you basically, it's called like jurist, which is like you're a lawyer. Whereas here you get a JD, which is Juris Doctor. Okay. So you get a professional degree. But in fact, the way the system works here, as a Juris Doctor, you can't really do much. I mean, you can work the same as paralegal, for a lot of law firms doing research and, things like that. So again, like you're more in supporting roles, but you can't, for example, legally consult people. So in order for you to be a consultant, and because, like in immigration, there are a lot of consultants, even people who had one immigration case ever in their lives, they're all immigration consultants. Everybody has an experience in immigration law. But legally speaking, right, like you have to have a license, and for that you have to pass the bar exam.
So is it required after the school to pass this
It's not
exam?
required,
It's
but
not
if you want to
required.
but if you want to call yourself a lawyer or attorney at law. So you have to pass. If you don't pass, then
And you have to
you're
pay
a
for
JD.
this.
Yeah, you pay $1,000.
$1,000.
But it's a very grueling exam. It used to be three days. Now it's 2 days. So the last time, at the time of COVID, they actually had it online, which made me very envious to the people who took it at home. And and I was like, I just wonder how much easier it is. Like just as they say at home, even walls help. So.
But how does it work? You said 2 days. It's like 2 straight days. How many hours
Yeah,
does it take?
it's like I don't remember exactly, but I think it's like 3 hours. Then it's like a 1 hour break, and then another 3 hours. It's very grueling because the time limit.
Oh,
So
they give
what
you a time
kills you,
limit.
it's a time limit. Yeah, because
You have a timer.
so you have like multiple choice questions, like 200 of them. So each question is like, I
Tricky.
think it's like a minute and a few seconds that you have to,
It's really fast.
have the questions. Yeah. So a lot of people have to really train because you have to not only read very fast, but you also have to, because they always give you 2 right answers. So there's like 1 wrong answer and 2 right, but one is
It's
more
tricky,
right
right?
than the other one.
Yeah.
So you have to choose the best.
Okay.
And that's a very hard task.
But as soon as you pass this exam, this test,
yeah.
Are you able to practice?
Yeah, so you have to be sworn in by a judge, and then you become a lawyer. But then, again, so there are lots of areas of the law, right, that you can choose that you don't even study in the university. So for example, if you want to be a like tax law lawyer, or if you want to be a bankruptcy lawyer. So if you never worked in the law firm, I mean, yes, you can open your own law firm, but what are you going to do? You really don't know anything about the law. So the fact that you learn about criminal law or constitutional law is not going to help you to become a good bankruptcy lawyer. So what does that mean? That means you have to become an associate lawyer in a law firm of your choice and then start learning the law there. So what I'm trying to say for a lawyer, learning never ends. You have to always learn.
My question is,
Yeah.
what did you do for 4 years if you have to learn more, and why
Yeah.
did you pay
Yeah.
$60,000 for this?
That's a good question, but that's how the system is set up. So you have to know all laws that are out there, right? Like a property law, constitutional law, criminal law. And I mean, in your work, of course, it's good to know the issues the client might have, right? Because a client may come to me with immigration issues, but then as he or she tells a story, there could be some other underlying issues that you have to be at least aware of that I'm not necessarily going to help with, but I can refer to a criminal lawyer or a family lawyer, and then they can take care of those issues. But you have to have an understanding and awareness of those laws.
Yes, and my question is, usually how it happens in the universities, for 2 years you are taking general classes, and after that you can choose your
specialty, right?
your major, right?
It's not like that.
It's not like that.
No, because you come there already with the bachelor degree, so you have to have a bachelor degree in order to start the law school. Okay. So of course people come there. Some people have political science as their major. Some people come as economy. But in general, you really learn just the general law.
Wait, so you cannot apply to the university after the school? You have to have a bachelor degree before you apply?
Yes.
Bachelor
because
degree?
It's a professional school. It's like medical school.
What major? What major should it be?
It doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. Yeah, because then later on in your career, I guess like you choose yourself. Most of the lawyers usually have political science. Some people have humanities. I had a classmate who had a major in biology. Yeah, because you can become so many different kinds of lawyers, like a patent lawyer. And
why did you choose the immigration?
Yeah, I think I chose immigration because remember how I said I wanted to become a writer?
Yes.
So I always wanted to tell people stories. And I figured that, you know, in immigration, it's the same, right? Like I feel like constantly what I do, I tell people stories. I have like a lot of people who seek asylum in the United States, right? Because something happened in their home country and they don't feel safe returning in their to their home countries. And so when I present their stories, it's telling a human story. When you go to court with your client, it's telling a human story. Those stories that I touched on, the domestic violence, when I tell this woman's stories, it's telling this woman's story. So it's a lot like literature, except it's based on true facts.
And did you have any funny stories related to your language? You know, we have a lot of funny stories when people come here, and this misunderstanding between people.
I think from my first years, I had a lot of stories like that, because as you know, English language is homophonic, meaning two different words, they sound the same to us as foreigners, right? So for example, I always say beach in a very interesting way. So whenever I say beach, even my son always like, I don't know even if I'm going to say it right again. So I say beach, and then he's like, it's beach, mom. So anyway, there's always like, that word. And then also, bird and beard. I can say bird like beard or beard like bird. And then, there was also this saying which I read that talked to me. It said that never laugh at someone who mispronounces the word, because that means they speak another language. Yes. So that word for me was vague, so I remember I was speaking to someone and I said, well, what you said is rather Wagyu. And then he was like, what? And he said, do you mean vague? And I'm like, vague. Okay, so that's how it's pronounced. Okay, so
because
that's, and I never forget that. I mean, I saw Wagyu and I'm like, okay, Wagyu. So that was probably the most memorable.
Thank you so much.
Thank
you.
It
was a pleasure meeting you and talking
listening to my stories.
Of course, it's a lot of information, good information. Thank you so much, and I wish you best of luck in your practice.
Thank you.
Hi, Queen Jordi.
Hi.
Thank you for inviting us.
Thank you for having me.
Can I ask you a question? Is it your real name?
So my real name is Jordine Brown, but I just go by Queen Jordi.
Why Queen? No, you look like a queen, but...
Oh, thank you. So the name Queen, I feel like it's been given to me. People would just naturally call me Queen, and then Jordi is the shortening of my name. Jordi is the shortening of my name, Jordine. Okay. So when I was in tech school, I got my first tattoo, which was this queen right here. And then I feel like ever since then, I changed my Instagram name to Queen Jordi, and it's been a wrap ever since.
That's amazing. I love it.
Thank
Queen Jordi. And you look like a queen.
Oh, thank you so much. You too.
Oh, thank you. I prefer to say to my husband, I look like a queen.
You do.
I want to hear about your journey from Jamaica to the United States. What inspired you to move here?
Okay, so I moved here with family. My grandmother was living in the States for many, many years, and she filed paperwork for my mom and her sisters and their children to move in the United States, to move to the United States. I feel like the reason was to have a better life, to have more opportunities. So when I was 18, I moved from Jamaica, moved to Connecticut, actually.
Why Connecticut?
So that's where my grandma lived.
Wait, your grandma moved and then your mom moved, right?
Yes.
And you lived by yourself in Jamaica?
No, so when I was in Jamaica, I lived in a family home with my mom, my sister, uncles, cousins.
Oh, so many people in one house?
Yes, that's my culture.
Yeah?
Yeah, a lot of my culture consists of like people living in like extended family homes. So we always have community. A lot of uncles and aunts and cousins. I grew up with all my cousins, some younger, some older. You always had a cousin to play with.
I would love to go to Jamaica. It's
Oh
so
my God, you should.
I should?
Yes.
I will. I promise I will.
You can come with me, okay?
Yeah? Are
Yeah.
you inviting?
Yeah, that's an
There
invitation.
you go. I'm going to Jamaica, guys. Bye. So you moved here when you were 18 years old.
Yes.
What surprised you the most here?
The first surprise I got, and probably I'm still shocked by it, was how cold it was. So I only saw snow on the TV growing up in Jamaica, and it looked so cool. Snow angels and cute outfits. But when I got to Connecticut, and I actually moved from Jamaica in August. So by the time I left from like hot, summery climate to...
And it was still cold for you?
Oh my God, I was freezing. I was so cold.
In the summer?
I feel like even now I'm cold.
Now you're cold.
I'm always cold because I grew up in a hot climate. I didn't have AC growing up.
So your body kind of used to the
Yes, my body is definitely used to like a tropical climate, which was why, like, when I got sent to Guam, when I was in the Air Force, I got sent to Guam. I was very happy in Guam because Guam is an island. It's hot.
I
really
have
love
so
it.
many places to visit, I guess, right?
Yes.
Why did you go to the army?
So I was in the Air Force, actually.
Air Force?
Yes.
Jesus Christ, Air Force. She's so brave. Why did you decide to go to Air Force?
So a couple years after living in Connecticut, I decided like I had to get out of there.
So it was the only way to get out of the Connecticut, go to the Air Force?
So I felt like that was my best option because at the time I was working full time. I had like 2 different jobs. I was also in school.
What did you do? What kind of jobs did you have?
My first job was KFC.
KFC? Cool.
I started off as a cashier and then I became a shift manager. So I worked at KFC and I also had a job at Olympia Sports,
Okay.
which is like a sports store. They sell like jerseys and equipment. So I was working so hard and I was in school at the same time. Because when you move from a different country to the US, nothing is handed to you. You literally have nothing.
Yep.
And so I had to figure it out. I didn't have a support system to like hand me anything. So I decided like the best way for me to get on my feet is to join the military. And so I just did it.
What kind of benefits do they provide to you if you join the military here in the United States?
That's a good question. So I do have education benefits.
Education?
Yes.
Do they pay for the whole education or you have some discounts? How does it work?
So it depends on if you left the military with honorable discharge, which I did. And it also depends on how long you stayed in the military. So if you have 100% education benefits, that mean that they would pay for your full tuition. And I'm actually in school right now, so.
For how long do you have to be in the army?
In the Air
paid?
Force? So I'm not sure, but I know that probably like 3 years.
3 years.
But don't quote me though.
For how long have you been
How long have I been out?
in army?
Or how long I was in the Air Force?
For how long?
So I was in for a little bit under 4 years.
Under 4 years. Okay.
Almost 4 years.
And you got all these benefits. It was enough to get these benefits.
Yes,
right?
I do have education benefits and I also have like health benefits. Like I get to go to the VA whenever I need to go to the doctor. I literally pay like $5 or less for a visit.
But do you receive some like pension or no?
So it depends on if you have like different disabilities from the military. So as a disabled veteran, you do get paid each month. Yeah.
What about the housing? Do they help you with the housing?
They do have different housing benefits. So when you are buying a house, you get like a special discounted VA rate. Yes, I'm renting right now though.
Okay,
But I did buy a house at one point back in my old life. And I
Old
did
life, you're
in my
still
old
young.
life. And I did use my VA housing benefits. I forgot what that's called, but yeah. I did get special advantage. I did have advantages because I am a veteran when I was purchasing the home. And I still will if I decide to buy another home.
So it doesn't matter how many homes you buy.
I am not quite sure. But I do know that I have at least 2 homes that I would get that benefit.
What was the hardest for you here in immigration?
Like the immigration process,
No, like in life.
just moving from a different
Both of them.
country.
Yeah, both of them.
Okay.
In the process and in
Okay.
life.
So the immigration process for me was long and draining. So I found out that I was going to be moving to America when I was like 10 years old. The process took at least 8 years 8 years
8 years.
for everything to come through.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
So it took a long time. It was really hard, like leaving everything behind. Because when I left, I was like a year out of high school. I
All your friends.
Yeah, I already did the first year of college, or sixth form as it's called in Jamaica. That would be the equivalent of a community college in America. So I already did 1 year of that. If I had done the other year, I would have my associates. And so I left at an awkward time. When I first moved to America, my family tried to get me to enter high school again to see if I could like do 1 more year in high school. But I was 18 already, so
You didn't want to?
no, they didn't allow me to do that. So
Did you want to?
I wanted to because I felt like it would have given me more opportunities. I was thinking of like scholarships, and because I always know that I'm a good student. So I'm here, the opportunities here, I would have capitalized off it and gotten a scholarship or something.
What did you do?
What did I do? I started community college and I got 2 jobs.
Again!
Yes, that's what I
2
did.
jobs. Okay,
Yeah.
so those 2 jobs you mentioned, right?
Yes.
And for how long did you work there?
So I worked at KFC for over 2 years. That was the last job I had before I left for the military.
Okay.
But I worked at different KFCs. I started off at one that was really close to my home. Then when I became a shift manager, they sent me to Main Street. They sent me to Main Street. Then after that,
What does it mean to Main Street?
Main Street, they sent me to a different location that was like in the middle of Connecticut.
Oh, okay.
Main Street, Connecticut, and Main
not
Street,
good?
Bridgeport. No.
I don't know. That's why I'm asking. I saw your face.
No, I did not like that. And probably because I was a manager too, and I started off as a cashier. And when you are a manager at KFC, you are in charge of old people, young people, all different types of people. And KFC is a very like low entry job. You don't need any specific qualification. So every type of people is there. And I was so soft. I was so scared. I probably didn't have the any bass in my voice. I was very nice. And I still had a very strong accent. So, you know, it was hard navigating that.
Yeah, that's not a bad thing to be kind and soft, but yeah, I know what you mean. By the way, I have a question about the military. Did you get your citizenship through military?
No.
No? Do
When
they help you with this?
So if you, yes, so they do. Well, actually, so I moved to America with my green card. I had my green card. But then, yes, I actually did get my citizenship in the military. They had the option and I chose that, yes, I would love to get my citizenship. And then I had to study for the test while I was in basic training. Yes. And I had all my, like everybody that was in my flight, all my wingmen, we call them, all my wingmen were helping me study. And I remember I went and I took the test and I passed, and at graduation, that was when I swore in with a bunch of other people that were also getting their citizenship. And I did it, y'all. I became an American.
Do you miss Army?
If I miss the Air Force, no.
No?
No, I actually don't miss it at all. I do miss things about it. I miss the stability of it. Because when you're in the military, everything is paid for already. You get a steady paycheck each month. Everything is really like so easy. If you have a problem, you tell your supervisor, everyone fixes your problem for you. You're really taken care of in the military.
Okay, that's good.
You know, so I do miss that about it. But I don't miss people constantly telling me what to do. I don't miss having to follow all these rules. Like, I'm very, I would say, eccentric.
Independent.
And very artistic. And I love to express myself how I feel. And in the military, you can't just be yourself, you know? And I didn't like that.
My husband used to be in the military.
Oh.
Yes. So I know what you're talking about. Yeah, you have to follow the orders. There is no space for your desires or for
and the mission comes
creativity.
First.
Yeah, the mission comes first. That's what military is for, actually.
Yes, I know. I felt like, I don't know if you've ever watched Legally Blonde. That first day when Elle Woods went to law school, that's how I felt when I was in the military.
I will watch after. That's how you feel?
Yes, I was so girly, so sweet, like, hi guys, and everybody's like,
Are you tough right now?
I feel like I'm definitely tougher than I used to be. Like, before I joined the military, like, I could do like 3 push-ups. And mentally, I would say I wasn't as strong as I am now. I've had to learn over the years, especially through the military, to be tough and to work for what I want and to have a lot of discipline. Yeah.
So you have some good stuff in your
Yeah, it taught me a lot.
What happened when you left military?
When I left the military, that's actually a story I never tell, but since it's coming up. So the military changed their rule after I was in. It's called the AFI, which is basically like different rules and articles that we're guided by.
Okay.
And it changed to where women that are pregnant and you have up until a year after your baby is born, you could choose to get out of the military.
So you still can get pregnant while you are in military?
Yeah, and I got married in the military too.
Oh yeah, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah.
So when
divorced now though. However, I did get married in the military, and so when that rule or AFI changed, and I had the option to choose to get out if I wanted to. And you get out with the honorable discharge too. So I chose to get out, and I got out at 3 years and like 9 months.
Okay.
Or 3 years and 8-ish months. If I had waited a couple more months, I would have 100% education benefit. But because I left a couple months short of that cutoff, I have 90%.
Why didn't you wait?
I didn't wait because I was married at the time, and my ex-husband and we were about to get sent to South Dakota. He was in the military as well.
Okay.
So I didn't want to have to go to South Dakota and then in process into a new base just to start the process of getting out the military.
You were married, right?
Yes, I was married.
So if your husband goes, you go too?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I wasn't sure.
Yes.
Because I know in Ukraine, your husband can go somewhere and they can send you somewhere.
Oh, no. Yeah. Here, when you're moving from one duty station to the next, your whole family goes. So if you have...
I know, but if I wouldn't be in military, yes.
Oh.
But if you are in military and he was in the military, you know, that's what I mean.
Oh. So
both of you.
Yeah. So we actually got our orders before my process went through, before my separation. So we both together got sent to South Dakota. But after the process came through, I realized it's better to get out of the military while I was in Guam. I didn't want to have to in-process in a new base in South Dakota just to do the process to get out in South Dakota. Because I had a six-month-old daughter at the time. So
when you joined the army, they sent you to Guam right away, or how does it work?
So when I joined the Air Force, I went to basic training in Texas, Lackland Air Force Base in Texas. Because my job was dental tech, my tech school, where I learned to be a dental tech, is also in Texas. It's in Houston, Texas.
Okay.
And I was in Houston for like 3.5 months. After Houston, then I got my orders to Guam. So I went from Houston to Guam, and that's where I was until South Dakota.
South Dakota changed everything. Changed her life.
Literally. That's not a lie.
That's not a lie. What happened next?
So after that, you know, I had a very small baby. She was 6 months old. Right before I got out of the military, I started thinking, like, what can I do from home? I didn't want to just stay home and be a mom, even though that was the agreement my ex-husband and I had. But like, I'm from Jamaica. I like to be active. I like to...
Are the people active?
I would say so. I would say so, yeah. And I'm just a very ambitious person. And I love to create. But I didn't know what I was going to do after I got out of the Air Force. I know that I was going to be a mom. But one day I was in a Facebook group with military wives, and someone asked the question, what can I do from home? What are good work from home jobs? And I was scrolling, reading through the comments, and somebody wrote, I make jewelry. And then the idea popped in my mind, like, what? I used to make jewelry in Jamaica.
Oh, you did?
Yes, that was like my favorite childhood hobby.
So there you go.
Yeah, so I started, once that light bulb moment went off, I literally just started doing my research, and I literally used my last military paycheck and bought a bunch of inventory. And that's how my jewelry business started.
That's amazing. When did you sell them for the first time?
So initially, when I first started, I would just sell it online. And
Instagram? Or?
No, I created my website. I didn't even know anything about building websites, but I figured it out.
By yourself?
Yes. I was like, I need a website. And then I was looking at the benefits of having an Etsy versus having a website. And after doing some research, I decided, like, I need a website, but I couldn't afford to, like, pay for that. So I had to figure it out. So I created my first website, and I started advertising to a lot of the people that I knew before, people from the military. Because before I left, I had already started telling people, I'm going to have a jewelry business.
See? Listen to her. She knows what she's doing. Great job.
Thank you.
So you proposed it to the people you knew then, and then you realized you have to go on social media, or? So
I was already on social media.
Okay.
I was already on social media. I feel like I've always loved social media. And I've always loved expressing myself. That's what I love about social media. I genuinely love making content and videos and I love taking pictures and videos and all that. So social media for me was always a thing, even before I started my jewelry business.
Because you look so good in pictures. Look at her,
thank
right?
you,
She's like a model.
So I actually am a model now. Yeah, I've been modeling since I moved to Phoenix. For like a couple years now, I started my modeling journey, and that's when I started incorporating my jewelry with the modeling. I'm like, why not?
It's so beautiful.
Thank you.
I love this moon.
Thank you so much.
That's beautiful.
All
right?
handmade by me.
It's by you.
Yes.
I love it. I love them.
Thank you.
So cute. How does it work right now?
With my jewelry business?
With your jewelry, your business.
So now I'm in Phoenix. I do a lot of fashion shows and I do a lot of pop-up shops or events where I go and I sell my jewelry in person. I also sell online. And my jewelry is in one store right now, but my goal is by next year's summer, I want my jewelry to be in at least 5 different stores.
Great.
In Arizona.
In Arizona?
Yes.
Are you planning to sell them all over the United States, or like all over the world?
Yes, actually, I want to have a jewelry collection in Jamaica, right? I'm just trying to figure out where exactly. I would love to have it in like a hotel gift shop or somewhere classy.
Yeah, dream big, why not, right?
Definitely, yes.
Awesome. Do you miss Jamaica?
Oh, you're gonna make me cry.
You can cry. Do you miss?
So I actually do miss Jamaica. Last year, the end of last year, I went back to Jamaica for the first time in 12 years.
Oh, wow.
And then I went again a couple months ago. After I went back last year, I decided, wow, I'll never stay away that long again. Yeah. It really changed me because I reconnected with my dad's side of the family, and I didn't grow up with my dad.
Okay.
So, and my dad's side of the family has a lot of masculine energy. So I have a lot of uncles, and my dad is very much there, and a lot of cousins, older cousins, and they really embraced me. And I felt at home. I stayed with my uncle. I didn't want for anything.
Did you want to come back to the United States?
Oh my God, no. I literally cried.
Really?
And especially the last time I went, which is a couple months ago, I got back and I thought I was fine. But then my uncle called me the next day and I was like, "Hi, Uncle." He's like, "I could hear it in your voice. It's okay. You're okay." And I just started crying. Because I feel like what really hit me about coming back is all these responsibilities.
I know.
In Jamaica, it's very relaxed, very much go with the flow, good vibes. Everybody's laughing, and my culture is very much good vibes, good energy all day long. But America is way more like structured, way more go, go, go. You gotta get this money, you gotta this, you gotta... So yeah, definitely culture shock.
Yeah, I know, I can relate. I haven't been to Ukraine for 10 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
When are you going back?
When the war is over, I guess.
Oh.
Yeah, I was planning to go in 2022, but the war started, so it was a bummer.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I don't know yet. Do you have any funny story related to your immigration? Maybe something happened to you funny because of your language, misunderstanding. Yeah. Can you remember?
Oh my God. Okay. Yeah. So the first thing that pops into my mind, when I got my first job of working at KFC, I was so stressed because I didn't understand the currency. I didn't know a quarter, dime, dollar. I was so stressed. And my first job was a cashier. I wasn't trained.
It's already funny.
They literally like threw me on the register and I'm already bad at math. So people would like give me a $20 and then they're like, oh, I got change.
Oh, they just want to give you change so you don't have to give them change.
Yes, and then I'm already confused, like trying to figure out how much change they need back, and then I'm trying to convert that to the US currency. I swear, every single day when it was time for them to check my register before I left, I was sweating. Because I swear, and then I started going home. I got some dimes, quarters.
I just realized that it would be me, you know? Just scary.
I was so stressed and scared. And I would go home and actually count quarters and dimes and nickels and figure out, okay, this is a quarter, this is 25 cents, it looks like this. And I had to practice because that was very, very stressful.
You gotta do what you gotta do, you know?
Definitely. And there was a language barrier too, because my accent was very, very strong. And
did you have any funny situation with your language when you said something?
I feel like people would always ask me to repeat myself.
Oh yeah, it's my story all the time. I can relate.
People knew I was from Jamaica immediately.
Were you scared when people asked you to repeat?
No, I didn't take it personal. I know a lot of immigrants feel bad when other people ask, where are you from? I don't take it personal because I think if somebody's asking me that, they want to know.
I want to ask the viewers, if you are the immigrants, can you leave the comment under this video if you are afraid to speak in English? I really want to know. And can you advise something to the people who are afraid to speak in your camera?
I would say just do it and just express yourself the best way you know how. Because the people for you, they will be attracted to your energy and who you are, and it's gonna all come together. Like, not only was I an immigrant, but I also stuttered really badly growing up. So I was really bad at speaking. I would always get so afraid. I was that child when my teacher would call on me in class to read something. That was like the worst thing ever. And I practiced a lot. I watch a lot of like inspirational videos of other people that overcame their issues, and I was inspired. Then I feel like when I joined the military, I had to be brave. I could no longer say I can't. I had to figure it out. And I feel like when you do different things that are brave, you become more and more fearless, and then you're not afraid of things like you used to be.
Have you ever felt like you have been treated differently than other people just because you are an immigrant?
And I was going through a lot of trying to figure out my identity, being from Jamaica and having to fit into the US culture. I had to change my language because if I'm speaking with an accent, no one understands me. And it gets really frustrating being in school, trying to do presentations and no one understands you.
Yep.
You know, and then I feel like some people can look down on you if they feel like you have an accent and if they don't really understand you. So I learned that. So I had to learn how to speak so others could understand me. I mean, I've definitely had a couple experiences that were less than positive, but I do choose to focus on the positives. I feel like a lot of people don't understand, and when you don't understand something, you may react differently to it. I feel like I've met way more people that have been genuinely interested in me and my story, and they want to know about Jamaica. So I really don't dwell on the one or two people that were ignorant over the years.
Okay, that's cool. What does Jamaica have that United States doesn't?
The vibes, the culture, what?
What kind of question is that, right?
The food, everything.
Everything?
But I know people will be like, if it has everything, then why are you here? So what's here that's not in Jamaica is the opportunities.
Okay.
And I feel like in America, if you have the drive, you can accomplish anything. So the American dream is kind of a lie, but not really. Like, if you can work the hardest and be the hardest worker, and if you can network and meet the right people, and there are ways for you to climb to the top. It may not be like immediately. Mm-hmm. Like, I had to join the military. I had to go through so many different phases, and I'm still going through my different phases now. But I am committed to my path, being a jewelry designer and a model, and this is what I want. And like, I don't have a plan B. I have to make it. So, but in Jamaica, you could have all these dreams, but if there's no opportunity, you know,
I get it.
So,
yeah, that's interesting. How do you feel about the immigration right now? Is it harder or it's easier? The whole process right now.
So I feel like, based on what I've been seeing on my For You page on social media, to my understanding, the process of immigration is harder now. Yeah.
Than it was before, right?
Yes.
What would you change in the whole process of immigration?
I feel like I would change like how transparent things are. I don't feel like it's very transparent. I feel like a lot of people are in the waiting process. They don't know what's gonna happen, when it's gonna happen.
I feel like they give an approximate time, but still it shifts, right?
Yes.
You never know.
Yes. I wish there was a system that we could go on as people immigrating from other countries, and we could look and track where it's at right now. Even if it's 10 years away, you being able to see what's happening will help you to plan your life better. Because a lot of people, by the time their papers come through, they are just...
But it changes a lot.
It does change a lot,
10
too.
years.
That's true.
Everything is changing, and right now everything is changing so fast. I don't know if it's possible.
Yeah.
You know? The whole life is flying. The whole situation is changing.
Yes.
Everything is... I feel like the life it's going like so fast right now. And it used to be before, maybe because I'm getting older. I don't know, but I just feel the whole political situation, the whole world is changing.
Yes, everything is changing rapidly, and especially for the United States in the next 4 years. Like, we don't know what is, like, how it's really about to change.
Nobody knows.
Yeah.
How do you see yourself in 10 years? What is your biggest dream?
In 10 years, I see myself as being like a leader in the jewelry industry.
I love it.
I need everyone in the world to know about Queen Geordie Gems jewelry.
Queen Geordie.
Yes, and I also
remember that name, please.
Queen Geordie Gems. And I also see myself like doing just big modeling things, and paving my own way in the modeling industry, like making it me expressing myself through my jewelry.
Like your own brand.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, I love it. I think we're good here, right?
Yes.
Is there anything else you want to share?
No, this was very perfect.
Okay, I like it. Everything you said. I never had anyone from Army.
Yeah.
That's why I really like it.
Oh,
it's really cool.
Yeah,
Thank you for
really
sharing. Because
I
don't know anything about it. And I guess a lot of people don't know, right? So it's very interesting to hear it from you.
Yes. Thank you for having me.
Of course, you look so good for being in the Army.
Thank you.
How many
girly girls can be in the Army too.
How many push-ups?
Or Air Force.
How many push-ups you can do right now?
Right now, so I do have an injury from the military. So I injured my wrist.
How did you do that?
Doing push-ups.
Doing push-ups?
Yeah, so I do have a little cyst right here. But so I don't really, when I do push-ups, I do them on my knuckles. But I'm not that good.
I feel they can do more than I can.
I don't know.
But anyway, thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing your story, for inspiring us. And
thank you for having me. This is fun.